Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Now, a company called Advanced Human Imaging recently appeared on my tech radar, set off by tech spidey sensors, after learning how they developed a proprietary dimensioning technology that enables its users to check, track and assess their dimension using just their smartphone, both privately and accurately. And building off their success in apparel and fitness, the company is now redefining how the smartphone is used for insurance assessments, remote medical consultation, timely interventions for chronic disease and oncology, and so much more. So I wanted to learn more about their technology and their smartphone-based biometric software and the difference that they're making and how they're partnering with digital health, fitness and apparel companies across the globe. It's a fantastic story. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Australia, where Vlado Bosanak is waiting to speak with us about all this and much more. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely, love to. So, Neil, I'm a 56-year-old ex-investment banker that's worked in the capital markets for 30 years. I still have the same energy I did when I was 26 years of age. I love a challenge. I don't know how to lay down. I suppose if I did, I shouldn't be in the world of startups and trying to drive companies from an idea through to a few $100 million as we are at the moment. So it's one of those things in life. I enjoy the challenge. I don't understand the word fear, or fear doesn't scare me, I should say, because it's something you live with in the world of startup every day. So it never stops. You learn how to make it a power to push you forward rather than an inconvenience to your thought process. But here I am running Advanced Human Imaging. It was an idea of mine 8 years ago. We started it, and we're listed now on the Australian Stock Exchange and moving to the NASDAQ.
Fantastic. And there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, in just your intro, you mentioned ex-investment banker and the world of startups. So before we go any further, I'm going to ask you to share your origin story there. And where did your passion for technology come from? And ultimately, what put you on this path today and living in this world of tech startup?
I think really when you're in investment banking, you get the opportunity to see a lot of fantastic ideas. And along the way, there's been many technologies that we've looked at and we've invested in and assisted those organisations in executing on their plans. But what you do learn over 30 years of doing this is you can have the best mousetrap, but if you don't know where to position it, it doesn't mean it's a great trap. It's going to catch nothing. So, my foundation, if you like, in this is from investing and seeing opportunities and learning how to decipher those opportunities and understand, sometimes you're not backing the horse, you're backing the jockey, and you may love a concept, but you certainly look at who's going to drive it to its destination and whether it can arrive there with that person behind it. So really that origin of deal, I would say origination and funding is what's driven me to where I am today. And I've worked through multiple biotechs in my earlier part of my career into mining tech, and now into health/med tech with Advanced Human Imaging, which is not a company I funded. It's a company I funded and founded myself from a concept that I drove from an idea I saw somewhere else on some other technology, and got it to where we are today. So that's the origin of it. But if you look at the reason it happened, I was doing what you do here in Western Australia. We have a fantastic wine country, and I was enjoying a fabulous glass of red with a colleague of mine who is a very, very smart individual that operated in professional sports and injury prevention and diagnosis with athletes across the Olympic team and our AFL teams here in Australia, which is probably the equivalent of your NFL teams in the US, or the soccer, the World Soccer League that you have there in England. And he showed me some images that he'd been working with through video capture of addressing angle and velocity of weight in the human form when people were performing in their sports. And he showed me how they could diagnose why someone was going to injure themselves, and then also utilize that capability to identify the injury and how to then assist the person in changing their form in their particular sport to be able to not have the injury, or if they've had the injury, how to prevent that injury happening again. And I looked at how they were measuring angle with force, and I asked him, I said, is there a possibility to use the same sort of capturing process to create a dimensioning capability? So, circumference and measurements and length measurements rather than just velocity and force with angle. And he said to me very quickly, I'm a sports scientist. I'm not a mathematician or the coder that built this for us. And I was fortunate enough through him to meet Dr. Essalam, who is still with me today after 8 years, and spoke to him about what I was hoping to do. And my original idea was, I was a professional athlete at the time myself, and the shape that I'd managed to create through my given sport made it very difficult to buy clothing. So, and even worse so online, to buy clothing online. So I thought if I could create a digital technology that could measure me accurately when I wanted to buy clothing online, it would be a no-brainer. People would want to use it. The experience of online purchasing is horrible, and 9 out of 10 times they get it wrong. So, you can't rely on the sizing charts that are provided by the rudimentary on-site apparel companies. So we went down this path together and got it into a form where it worked very, very well. And I thought, well, before I make any noise about this, I really need to get some patents and protection around it, because I don't want people to see the concept and develop it against me. But when I did that, I realised so many companies were trying to, if you like, own the same piece of real estate in the apparel industry, working through multiple different ways to do this. So I thought, rather than fight over the same postcode, I would look at how I could use it in multiple other ways. And I was a professional athlete, as I said at the time. I was competing in bodybuilding of all things. And I thought, well, this could work just beautifully in the gym industry, with people wanting to self-assess and understand the changes that their body was going under. And that was really where we started the technology in if you like, weight loss and the adoption of knowing your measurements and changes you were undergoing through exercise, diet, process that you might have been undertaking for yourself, which in itself at the time was around a $700 billion a year industry. And then the apparel industry was of similar size at the time. So we sort of worked across the both of those to get the company to what I would call a very marketable product with a lot of interest. And it's progressed from there. And that was in 2017 when we got to that point. We started in 2013, by the way.
And what a great story there. And if we fast forward from that point to 2021, Advanced Human Imaging has developed a proprietary dimensioning technology that essentially enables its users to check, track and assess their dimensions using just a smartphone privately and accurately. But can you set the scene and tell me more about the problems that you solve with your tech here and now?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a number of things that we obviously tackle, and we've mentioned a few there with the simplistic way of being able to just simply measure yourself across different parts of your body to see if you're getting the results you're hoping for from all the hard work you're putting into the gym and the calorie restrictive diets that you might be putting yourself through. But we've really taken the capability with what we have to another level, because when we started marketing the product, we started being approached by a lot of organisations that are more on the insurance and care provider side, where they wanted to be able to use a tool like this to assist in better care for their patients, their policy holders, and so on. So Advanced Human Imaging in its first life was called My Physique, and that's when it really worked primarily around the sports, fitness, weight loss and measuring your physique side of things. But as we developed the company to what it is today, we've changed the name of the company because of the just the more global capabilities that we've developed through the technology. And as you called it, we've called it advanced human imaging. And the reason for that is that we have a number of capturing capabilities in the technology. And what we do with that is really provide an ability for organisations to both assist their subscribers, their users, their followers, their policyholders, and the people they are giving care to, with an ability to create a more of a longitudinal assessment of their personal health. So this works very different to AI, where they'll grab certain information off you that is self-reported, and they put it into their machine learning, and it spits out for them what they believe you represent in the way of risk. What we actually do is give an individualised assessment. With the body scan, we capture the body across 12,000 data points. We're able to deliver for the organisations both body shape, dimension, and composition. With the facial scan, we give you the vital signs that a doctor would want and a care provider would want around the heart rate, respiratory rate, irregular heart rate, and blood pressure. When you bring the two scans together, we're able to very, very nicely assess chronic disease risk around the metabolic diseases and diseases that have comorbidities with obesity or excess weight around the central part of the body, and so on. So we're able to actually assist not only in the early intervention of care, but also in the longitudinal care of being able to consistently and accurately give this information back on a consistent, regular basis, rather than this event-driven care that most people live by, which unfortunately as humans, we wait till something goes wrong, and that's when we go and see a doctor because we've actually had an event. So normally when you get there, if it's on the wrong side of things, you start to use medications and all sorts of things to help treat a chronic disease, and whether that be heart disease, it could be type 2 diabetes or stroke, or any of these things that can come about from just the simple fact your body weight is not where you need it to be. So we assist people in not only understanding when the risk isn't there, but if your trajectory over time is changing through the diagnostic capabilities of the capture systems that we have on the phone. And the nice thing about that is, and especially for the individual, is with everything that's going on in the world around medical privacy of data and so on, the individual is using their mobile phone. They are doing the captures on their phone. They are processed on their phone. No images or any of the capturing of the individual are stored on the phone or in the cloud, or even leave the phone at any time. And the diagnostic is what is given back onto the phone for the individual's care provider to then use as part of their assessment of what they will do for the individual. So it's really come a long way. So I've really tried to move the company into that area of provision of longitudinal care. And so many companies talk about that they are on an early intervention pathway, and that's what they are providing to the consumers. But the thing that I've lacked to find in any organisation is the ability to get the data to be able to do the early intervention through knowledge. It's always based on self-reported information from the individual and questions you ask them that really leave you short of needing to still get them into a doctor's surgery or a physical therapist to go through a number of tests and have a look at them and what they might need done to themselves. So we're not trying to replace doctors. I want to make that very, very clear. We're not looking to replace doctors at all. What we're looking to do is actually assist doctors in understanding and therapists in understanding who they do need to see and who they may not need to see yet, but still give them a capability through a digital private means to be able to, if you like, for want of a better word, surveil the person's health and be able to keep an eye on them and have a reporting process within the technology that allows them to know when, Vlado may need to come in and see them because his trajectory is heading in the wrong direction based on real data about me as an individual.
It's an incredible journey you've been on here, and I love how everything has evolved, and you've built on that success in apparel and fitness, and then moved on to redefining how that smartphone can also be used for things like insurance assessments, remote medical consultation, and timely interventions of chronic diseases and oncology, etc. But just to bring everything we're talking about to life here, do you have any use cases that you can share that will just help listeners and businesses, of course, understand how it could work in their world?
Listen, absolutely. If you look at a doctor wanting to perform a telehealth consult, and especially in the current times that we're facing, where people would really prefer to not go into hospitals and doctors' surgeries if they don't absolutely have to, we have a capability through a webcam to be able to run the vital signs diagnostic live with the doctor when you're having that telehealth consult with the doctor. So the information that he would have liked to have received or been able to gather when you attended his practice would be your blood pressure, your heart rate, your respiratory rate, and he's going to get you to jump on a scale so he can do a BMI calculation of where he thinks your metabolic risk lies. Now, everybody knows BMI is not accurate, but it's the best option they've had for many years. And he also looks at you and your shape when you walk in, because I can tell you just from your shape when you walk in, he's already determined what blood tests he might send you out for. If you are carrying that, what we call central adiposity, which is that belly fat around the center of your form, that is really where most of the risky fat is stored and causes most of these problems. And when you're looking down the barrel, 70% of deaths each year being chronic disease-driven deaths that are they're avoidable, they're treatable if they're caught early enough. When you have a capability like ours at the disposal of organisations to be able to use this, they embrace it. They want this information. And it doesn't mean they make a diagnosis based on what we are giving them only. It is a coupling of their professional capabilities with being able to get this information in an accurate, affordable and easy to use manner that they can trust. So that is probably the crux of it there from a doctor's position. When you're an insurer, the one thing people always worry about with insurers is insurers just want to keep charging you more. They call them a black hole. Money goes in, but they never want it to come out. When it's actually not the case. Insurers also want to be care providers. They want to be able to identify the risk they underwrite and then assisting you in being less risk to yourself and to them. And what you see most of the larger insurers doing now is having some sort of a digital interface where they can engage with you as a policyholder to reward you for better health activities and better health outcomes. What we do for the insurers is give them ability to understand, first of all, what they are underwriting at an initial point in time, how to recognise any risks or issues that they may want to manage and make sure are covered by the policy, and then through that, give the capabilities of our technology to their consumers to use it on a continuous basis with rewards that going back to those users of the technology and policyholders in the way of discounts to their policies and so on for better health outcomes. Because when you do the numbers on the savings that they can have by early intervention and helping you be healthier, it's far better than what they can ever receive out of just constantly increasing their policy prices. Because then what you do is you go online each year and you have a look at what is the best price I can get for the money I'm paying for the best amount of cover. So you're always looking at the next option or using brokers to do so. They want to create a far more cohesive relationship with their policyholders where they give you rewards for being healthier and they actually assist you in doing that. A lot of the insurers in the US and Australia are doing these rewards programs. I believe AIA in the UK has the Vitality program that they give out to reward their policyholders for activity and actually logging activity through the Vitality application. So it's very much the way of the future, is creating better wellness for better health outcomes. And we empower that capability so that people don't rely on self-reported data only and not just a wearable that is easily not diagnosing any of those issues that you'd really be wanting to understand. It gives you only activity. And when we're in a situation we are at the moment with COVID, the half of the problem which is creating some of these mental health issues is just the lack of mobility. It's people are stuck at home, they're not getting out, so their activity levels are much lower than usual. So their self-esteem suffers with that, and their own mental health suffers along with it. So it's things like this that assist people in living better, healthier lives.
And for the techies listening that like to hear a little bit more about what goes on underneath the hood, I appreciate you probably can't share too much, but can you expand on the smart-based biometric software that makes all this possible and how that works?
Yeah, I suppose if I talked about the secret sauce, it's really, when you look at the technology and what we've done is I'm not doing anything different to what 50 other companies do in the sense of using machine-based capabilities to do what I do from a mobile phone. So when you're looking at the secret sauce, in all honesty, it is our unique and patented capturing system where we're able to capture an individual extremely accurately and run those processes through and on the phone. So when you're looking at what we do that's so different, it's convenience, it's ease of use, it's absolutely cost effective. We did a recent walkthrough on the number of things we will be able to do on the device using our technology by early 2022. And it would be everything from a musculoskeletal assessment for both injury prevention and recovery. You'll be able to do your blood tests at home using the smart device as the actual AI that will do the diagnosis of the blood strips on a little Bluetooth dongle that comes with it. You'll be able to do derma checking through our mobile phone camera using the device. So you'll actually be able to take an image of a lesion that you're worried about and it will give you back data for you to show to your clinician or share with your clinician. And then we have the body scan and the face scan. So when you look at what we've done, really what the smarts is not that we've created a new test. What we've done is we've ported those tests into the capabilities of a mobile phone and utilised the capturing system and the GPU and CPU of those devices to do the heavy lifting that these big machines do when you go to a medical practice or a research centre and so on to do the same thing.
Love that. And as a B2B company, I've got to ask, who are your target customers? What value does your tech bring to them? Just for anybody that could be listening out there that could be one of those target customers.
So if you look across, we have 4 major business verticals that then spanned out horizontally. And if I started from the smallest to the largest, the smallest would be the fitness industry, which with what's happening in COVID now, digital fitness has gone to over $1 trillion a year market, and the assistance in what the trainers want to know to work with you remotely and so on. So the fitness, wellness and health market is a huge market for us. The apparel market is obviously a great market for us too, because people get sick and tired of buying things online that don't fit. And at the moment with all the lockdowns, online shopping is at its all-time highs. You just got to look at Nike's share price and what's happened to them over the last year. I think they've added $100 billion to their market cap because they're just selling so much online that the company's on fire. The third one is that insurance sector, whether it be life or health insurance, where we work with insurance providers with being able to underwrite and assist their communities with better health outcomes through real-time digital diagnostics. And the fourth one is the telemedicine platforms of the world where doctors want to keep in touch with their patients, look after their patients, give them the best, most affordable care that they can, but are hamstrung by the fact that they can't bring them into their surgeries to do that. The flip side of what we do too is it allows doctors to have far more throughput because they're able to do this without the waiting rooms being jammed up with people as well. So when you look across the 4 major markets we work in, you've got more than $10 trillion a year of business happening in these portals and these areas, and we're able to facilitate needs across all of them.
And before you came on the podcast today, I was doing a little bit of research about you guys. I also learned that you recently announced about adapting a global standard for ESG reporting. Can you expand on that too?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're an ASX-listed company anyway, so a lot of the things that people would consider to be part of an ESG reporting process are things we should be doing anyway and things that we are doing. And they're as simple as just good investor relations, constant disclosure, having good independent board members, and so on. When you dig a little bit deeper into ESG and you start to look at what the company does as a business centre, and ESG about the whole global warming thing and climate change and the changes you can make to that carbon footprint, probably the biggest impact we will do with we will affect will be in the apparel industry, where you're talking about 600 million tonnes of waste a year coming off the back of the apparel industry, with clothing that is sent back and wasted. So that would be highly impactful, and we're very serious about being able to assist in that change in the footprint. Outside of that, when you look at how our technology can work for an individual within their home, we're talking about so many things that impact the climate that go around, going to the doctor, going out to have, your trainer assess you and all sorts of things. I could go on for hours about it, and I don't want to use up too much of your time on this, but it is all of those things that are so important, and keeping that constant disclosure rolling forward and working with your board on your remuneration reports and all of the things that need to come with it. And last of all, but certainly not the least important, is the diversity of our board and the people that work for us, and how we work with that diversity within our organisation and the culture that we bring to our organisation because of running all of those things. So again, I want to highlight it's become this catchphrase, this ESG reporting thing. It should have always been there, and I think a lot of people have always done it unknowingly, but now it's been given a brand and a name, and you get kudos for actually saying you're doing it. But we've always practiced it anyway. What we did is, when we were approached on it to get involved with one of the particular groups that's really pushing hard on the ESG side, we saw the checklist on what they were talking about. I thought, well, we can tick every single box on what they're looking for. And I think it's good to actually make our communities aware of the fact that we're conscious of it and we act within those guidelines accordingly.
And like you said at the very beginning, you're very passionate about your work. You're not the kind of guy to lie down or stay in one place for too long. You're not afraid of anything. So I've got to ask, what's next for you? Is there anything that excites you about the future of your tech and makes you jump out of bed in the morning?
Absolutely. I've got to say, I've always said this to my daughters, who are one of my driving passions, is if you get up in the morning and you think, oh, God, I've got to do it again, you are not in the right field. You should be doing something else. So I can't honestly say I ever get out of bed in the morning and think, God, I've got to go and do that again. Yeah. I enjoy what I do. I don't believe I've had a job since I was probably in my late teens, because I've always done things that I wouldn't consider work. And through that, it's afforded me a very nice career, and I've met tens of thousands of wonderful people. But when you look at the company and you look at what I'm trying to deliver to organisations, because I've become very passionate about, and I'm not going to say a lobbyist, but I've nearly become a little bit too far on the side of things. I just don't believe anybody is truly delivering remote care. I think they want to. I think they genuinely are trying to work how to do it. But when you're talking about real early intervention and real remote care, you're talking about having to be able to facilitate the knowledge you need to act. And what I've done, and why I changed the name of the company to Advanced Human Imaging, is because we are offering very advanced capabilities through the one device we all trust, because we use it every day, and we use our mobile phones every day for our social media, our photos, what we post. And it's our device, so we trust it and we utilise it every minute of the day, just about. It's probably a bit over the top. But for the company, when I look at the next 3, 6 and 12 months, we have face and body scan built into the platform. It is a fantastic diagnostic tool. We are bringing on, in the next probably 60 days now, we're nearly through the final process, our AI Derma capability, which delivers 588 skin conditions across 133 categories of our Derma engine, which basically has been built out over the last 7 years to be able to diagnose 99% of what the skin disorders are of the world that are being diagnosed and rectified and treated by dermatologists. So, again, we're not trying to put dermatologists out of work. We're trying to make sure they see the people that need to. So we're obviously focused very heavily on skin cancers and things that have a high mortality rate if not captured early enough. After that, we have our on-device blood pathology capabilities. That's currently being built out. That's probably closer towards the end of the year that we'll bring that on. And that's more around at this point in time with all the medical approvals we have and so on, more based around the metabolic diseases, renal failure and things associated with obesity, so that we can assist people in that provision of care and needing blood. So if you look at what we offer in the way of our body scanning and face scanning, some of the things that the scans may detect are type 2 diabetes or an obesity state that the doctor would want blood tests then run. So we're actually able to, the same unique capturing portal, then send out a blood pathology kit. It's about $20. It's the size of a matchbox. It Bluetooths to your phone. It's got a little micro prick device with it that you put a little bit of blood on a blood strip. It goes into this device and it runs the diagnosis on the phone and gives it back to your doctor. So you're basically taking the nurse coming out and taking blood and taking it to a pathology centre. We're giving you a capability to do that at home with very, very easy instructions of how to process that capability and give that information back to your doctor. And last but certainly not least, with some of the vision we have in mind, is musculoskeletal assessment, which a lot of people don't understand, but it's basically looking at an individual's mobility and ability to stretch, move, rotate, and so on, and how that leads to injury. So we've got a company out of Israel that we've been finalising all the due diligence on that we're acquiring. And that company is a very well-formed musculoskeletal assessment company that use video capture to actually diagnose an individual's form for clinicians and physical therapists that look after people both before injury, after injury, recovery, sports teams, when they're looking at how to make sure their athletes stay flexible and elastic, if you like, in their muscles and their joints to avoid any kind of injuries. And this assessment tool is going to be able to be run straight from a mobile phone to run that assessment. And then there's a takeaway from that with organisations that then want to be able to have the movements tracked and scored to give back to the physical therapist to make sure the individual is taking care of themselves to avoid future injury. And so that is the next sort of 12 months for us. That's pretty exciting. Outside of that, we've signed agreements with organisations all over the world that have over 400 million followers, users and subscribers. And we're very excited about launching with a number of those organisations between now and Christmas and getting the product out and about for people to use and get involved with.
Well, I love listening to your story today and everything that you've achieved. I've got a feeling there's incredibly bright things ahead for you guys. But before I let you go, I always try and have a bit of fun with my guests. And in particular, in your case, because you've come from a world of worlds that have collided, including bodybuilding, investment banking, tech startups, etc. We started with your origin story. I'd love to find out more about the soundtrack to that journey that you've been on. Is there a particular song or piece of music that has inspired you throughout your career?
Where do you start? It's funny when I spoke to Nick when he arranged this conversation together, he threw that question up at me and he said, I don't want to catch you off with something you've never been asked. And the moment he said that to me, I thought of two songs. The first one I thought of was Bat Out of Hell by Meatloaf. Yeah. Because when you're in the world that I'm in, you are running at it. And that sort of really jumped into my head straight away. And then the other one was a song that I absolutely love from the Iron Man movies, which is Shoot to Thrill by AC/DC, because I'm a Perth boy, right? And Bon Scott was born in Medina, which is where I grew up. So you live and breathe AC/DC. And that was a song that right from my early days at school, they used to use the AC/DC songs to wake us up at camp. And we had to be into the mess hall by the time the song was over. So they literally turned this up on the speakers and your day would start. So they're the two that jump out at me, in all honesty. Do they correlate to tech and so on? Probably not. Do they correlate to motivation and get going and fear nothing? Absolutely.
Oh, man. Yeah, two great choices. I'll be adding both of those to our Spotify playlist. And for anyone listening that wants to find out more about advanced human imaging, where's the best place to find you guys online? And equally, contact your team if they've got any questions.
The easiest way to do that is to jump online at the usual www. And it's advancedhumanimaging.com. And on that site, you will see contact forms that can get you through to our tech team, our administration team, IR team, and so on. There are links there for everybody to look at. There's a lot of information on there. I welcome anybody to have any questions to reach out to us, because I'm always ready and willing and able to answer them.
Well, I always say that technology works best when it brings people together, but I love what you're doing here by using smartphone-based biometric software and technology to really make a difference. I cannot applaud you enough for what you're doing. I'd love to stay in touch with you, see how things continue to evolve for you, maybe get you back on in 6 months, see how that story evolves. But more than anything, just thanks for joining me today and sharing your story.
Absolute pleasure, Neil. Thanks for having me.
Wow, what a great story, and loved hearing more about the technology behind this smartphone-based biometric software. But of course, it was the very human story that brought all that to life. So thank you so much for everyone listening. I'd love to hear your stories, get them shared on this podcast. So please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. My website is techblogwriter.co.uk. You will also find links to my social channels there. Keep those messages coming in, and I'll return again tomorrow with another guest. So all that's left for me to say is a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.